Welcome to the first episode of my new series, The Turning Point. This one is all about those characters who didn't just grow, they flipped. One moment changed everything, and from that point on, they were someone else. But I'm not here just to point at that moment and move on. I want to break it all down, piece by piece. What led them there? What were they feeling? What was going through their mind when they made those choices? I want to understand everything, so if you are into character deep dives, you are in the right place. And if you have a character in mind who falls into this description, I would be happy to read your suggestions in the comments and make a video about them. Thanks in advance! So, let's get into the essence of this video. As you have already seen from the thumbnail, the first character I want to talk about is Meruem. Hunter x Hunter is packed with iconic villains, Hisoka, the Phantom Troop, and many more. But for some reason, I feel like Meruem doesn't get nearly enough attention. Honestly, even Pitou is mentioned more often, and while I love Pitou, her character depth doesn't even come close to what Meruem represents. The Ant King is without a doubt my favorite villain in Hunter x Hunter. What makes him stand out is his radical transformation from a ruthless predator who only exists to consume into an intelligent being capable of questioning the world, recognizing corruption, and even valuing human life. By the end, Meruem doesn't want meaningless slaughter anymore. He became, in my opinion, the most human character in the series. Let's start from the very beginning. From the moment he was born, Meruem was ruthless. He literally burst out of the Ant Queen's stomach because he couldn't wait to be born. From his perspective, everyone else was beneath him. Humans, chimera ants, animals, it didn't matter. To Meruem, everything was nothing more than food waiting to be consumed. Now, some might call him cruel, but that cruelty was part of his very design. Meruem was created to be the ultimate predator, a king destined to rule over the world, and in many ways he was exactly that. Even his Nen ability, aura synthesis, that allowed him to absorb the power of those he devoured, was a perfect match for his character. When you combine that with his terrifying intellect, Meruem truly stood as a superior being. But it was exactly that desire to prove his superiority that led him to the turning point of his story. While waiting for his grand plan to unfold, Meruem decided to both kill some time and test his superiority over everyone else. He ordered his royal guards to bring him the world champions of different strategy games, chess, shogi, go, it didn't matter. And this is where Meruem's genius really shined. He didn't just learn the rules, he mastered them in real time, all while facing the best players alive. Within only a few matches, he crushed them completely. To him, strategy wasn't about memorizing moves or patterns. His true strength lay in reading his opponent's rhythm and then breaking it. For the Ant King, it was just that simple. But then something different came. Puff introduced him to a local game called Gungi, often described as chess with a third dimension. When the reigning champion was brought before Meruem, he didn't expect much. After all, she appeared to be nothing more than a clumsy, fragile girl named Komugi. At first glance, she seemed weak and even pitiful, but the moment they start playing, everything changed. Meruem himself admitted that the atmosphere around her felt entirely different. Despite being blind, Komugi could play flawlessly, memorizing every move just from hearing them announced. That alone is incredible. But what makes her truly special was something more. It's never outright confirmed in the anime that her skills in Gungi come from Nen, but we have all wondered about it. What is clear though is that no matter how many times Meruem challenged her, she always won. Even as he grew sharper with every match, Komugi's growth matched his own, keeping her ahead every single time. Here is where we see the first crack in the Ant King. He had convinced himself that no one could match his power, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. Everyone else's skills felt small next to his. So, he decided to kill Komugi to show that her abilities were nothing compared to his strength. It wasn't personal, it was just because he could. But then, something unexpected happened. He walked in, saw an eagle attacking the blind girl, and without thinking, he killed the bird. What's interesting is he didn't even know why he did it. Why save her? Why feel the need to protect someone so weak? That tiny moment planted a question in his mind. Soon after, he started to wonder, why was I born? What does being a king really mean? It didn't change him completely, his hunger to conquer was still there, but it was the first real seed of doubt. The next moment came during the palace attack. Zeno unleashed Dragon Dive over the entire palace, not knowing Komugi was there. She was caught in the blast and got badly injured. And when Zeno and Neteru finally confronted Meruem, what they saw wasn't the monster they expected. Before their eyes, this so-called Ant King, the creature they came to destroy, was holding a hurt, fragile girl with care that didn't belong to a beast. Then Pitu entered the room and Meruem didn't command her as a king would his soldier. He pleaded, he trusted her to heal Komugi. For the first time, he showed that he needed one of his royal guards, something that he would never do in the past. They were more of a nuisance to him than his companions. And here is the key, the two hunters didn't strike, not because they lacked the chance, but because what they saw was something sacred. As the narrator put it, it was an act of love for another life. To attack now would have betrayed the very purpose of their mission, to protect humanity. There was a mutual respect in that room. The hunters held back and Meruem in turn agreed to leave and face them elsewhere. Then we get to one of the best parts of Hunter x Hunter in general, the fight between these two monsters. At that point, the change in Meruem was apparent. He tried to convince Neteru that there was no way he could lose, so there wasn't any reason for them to fight. The Ant King admitted that before he didn't see any value in humans, but now he had changed. There were people worth keeping alive, and Neteru was definitely one of them. The one who showed him that was the little girl who got hurt during the attack. Meruem gave Neteru an example of the weak people who rule the world, how some lived in abundance while children starved to death right next to them. He said he would change this. Yes, he would use violence if needed, but only when necessary, in order to create a world where equality was possible. Even Neteru was shaken by the king's words. According to the old hunter, Meruem was wavering between two identities, one of a human and one of a chimera ant. Neteru knew what Meruem said was true, but he had a mission. He admitted that he had to end this quickly, otherwise his own determination might waver. But still, Meruem refused to fight. Even when Neteru attacked, the king just sat back down. This showed how much he no longer wanted to rely on violence like before. Then Neteru promised to tell him his true name, something the king didn't know at that point, if Meruem managed to make him admit defeat without killing him. The fight itself was peak, but I'm not here to talk about it. In the end, Meruem used strategy to break Neteru's rhythm and ultimately won. He even told Neteru how much he admired his strength and respected his dedication. But on the brink of death, Neteru showed Meruem what humans are truly capable of. He detonated a bomb that almost killed the Ant King. Truly a human work. And for the first time, as the narrator said, Meruem felt true fear. Yet, even that wasn't enough to kill him. Yuppie and Pooh found him half dead and sacrificed themselves for him to eat, which healed his body and granted him their strength and abilities. However, he lost most of his memories and his guards refused to tell him about the person who had changed him because they believed that would make him more human, something they saw as dangerous, since to them the king had to remain cruel and merciless. Even though they tried to keep it a secret, Meruem sensed that he had forgotten something important, something that shaped who he was. Thanks to Pooh's Nen ability, spiritual message, he could now feel the emotions of others. So he realized his guards were keeping secrets out of loyalty, and instead of punishing them, he forgave them. This showed that even without his memories, Meruem was more human than ever. If that had been the same king as at the beginning, the one who nearly decapitated Pitu just for speaking without permission, his guards would have been killed instantly. Even later, when he captured Mereoleon and Knuckle, he could have killed them easily, but instead only knocked them unconscious. But still, he maintained some hostility. The king was ready to kill Welfin after sensing his hatred towards him. But before that happened, Welfin, through his overwhelming fear, managed to speak a single word: Komugi. The moment Meruem heard her name, his memories returned. What he felt was something I cannot describe. Pooh was just broken to sense how deeply the king actually cared for her. And all thoughts of killing Welfin vanished instantly, and Meruem simply thanked him for reminding him of something so important. And here came maybe my favorite moment. Welfin told him Komugi was underground, and Meruem went to find her. He encountered Palm first, and asked where the girl was. Palm, now how Chimera Ant, was confused. Meruem assured her that they had won, humanity was no longer in danger, and admitted that his time was short. He had been fatally poisoned by Neteru's bomb. His only wish before death was to spend his remaining time with Komugi. Palm was torn. Her human side questioned if this was a trick, while her Chimera side knew he was sincere. She asked why he didn't just torture her instead of asking, Meruem replied that this was not an option anymore. To him, her aura and strength were beautiful, and the only way was to ask her for her help. He even began to kneel before her, but Palm screamed for him to stop. Her Chimera side couldn't bear to see their king humiliate himself like that. Then she realized how much Komugi meant to him, so she agreed to tell him where she was, asking only for permission to witness his death. Meruem agreed. Their final moments together are unbearable for me. Every time I cry like a bitch, especially when Meruem said that in the end he had never once beaten her at Gungi, and Komugi replied that they had only just started. I don't know why, but I can watch that scene no matter how many times I have. Maybe it's because they're my favorite ship in all of fiction, or maybe I'm just a crybaby, who knows, you tell me. In the end, Meruem died as a better person than most of the characters in the series. Yes, he killed many along the way, but his development is something that deserves more recognition. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I put a lot of time into making it, so I hope it was worth it. Let me know your opinion about Meruem in the comments, and until next time, hopefully sooner.